Good morning, 6AMERS. The 6AMERS began in April 2020 in the heart of the pandemic. Forming this podcast is our way of extending the community and the message of the community into the world. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the 6AMERS podcast. I'm joined by my amazing and dynamic co-host, Emily Bossert. My name is Skye Michaels. I'm the host of this. And I wanted to just welcome everyone and just express a lot of gratitude to everyone that's listening right now and has been listening all season. Emily, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Skye. I am doing wonderful this morning. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So as we do, we are starting off these interviews with a word of intention. What, Skye, is your word of intention that would describe your relationship to meditation?
Chasing. Meaning, if you don't know me, I'm a self-help junkie, right? I've always listened to self-help books and all these gurus, and there's not one that doesn't say meditation is something you should do. For many, many years, I would try to do it and I would get frustrated because I would be thinking and then I'm like, oh, I'm bad at meditation. Oh, I should be doing this. I'm not doing it. And I was always chasing it. Last year in January of 2021, a friend of mine challenged me to a 30-day meditation challenge. So once a day, every day for 30 days, we would meditate and we would just share the Calm app and we would, text back and forth. Okay, I'm doing it, and even if it was like late at night, we got it in. For 30 days, I meditated and it changed everything for me. In the sense that I finally understood that thinking is okay, normal, and actually good. And I was able to get to the point that I think all the time. And like you, I'm a squirrel, right? My brain is a squirrel. There's thoughts going through it constantly. I'm constantly all over the place. And when I think about meditation and I meditate and thoughts come into my brain, which is all the time, what I do is I try to picture it as looking at a cloud that passes by. And it's one of those situations that allowed me to finally embrace meditation. The reason why, though, I say chasing is because of the fact that I do believe the rest of my life it's something I'm going to strive for and continually chase. I very easily can fall into traps of having a lot of work to do, knowing I should meditate, and then not doing it. And I want to always be chasing this goal of meditating and interacting with it in a powerful way. So that's my one word intention.
That's a great answer.
Thank you. And I think for everyone on this call that's listening, if you're trying to meditate, just continue. It's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong process and just do it. And when you start thinking, be like, oh yeah, this is okay. This is normal. I should be thinking right now. Let me look at this like a cloud and there it goes. And then I'm back. So I really want to thank you as well for leading our meditations and inspiring so many of these. And Emily, your 1 minute meditations, I listen to these all the time. The stuff we have on Instagram, it's really powerful. So,
I love that.
Awesome. Well, on that note, we are in for an amazing interview today with Brenda Florida. Brenda is a real estate agent. She is more importantly a life coach. And Brenda is this dynamic person that you talk to her. And once again, it's this like sunshine just comes through the screen when you're interacting with her. For me, I remember her talking about the journey of life is not a rock, it's like a river. And it's fluid and it's constantly changing. You don't know where it's going to go. And sometimes it's going one way and then there's an influx of more fluid and goes another way. And I think for all of us on this call, when we accept the fact that life is like a river and it's constantly flowing and changing and adapting, it makes us able to float, frankly, down this river. So that for me was this really big aha that I took. And Emily, for you, I know you connected really deeply with this one. What was your connection?
Yes, what a great aha for you. And I agree with you. Brenda is literally a source of sunshine. And to stay on the meditation platform, she talked about how meditation can be a tool. It can be a tool for our heart. It can be a tool for our soul. It's something that can take us if we're ever feeling angry or sad or frantic or chaotic or stressed. And instead of feeling like the victim in a moment, it will actually allow us to have some empathy for ourselves, which I truly loved.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, Emily, I can't wait for everyone to hear this interview. And with that, Brenda Florida.
Brenda, good morning. Good morning. I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
Oh, we're so thrilled to have you. So it's Brenda, I got to say, when I was like, sending the email out last night, I was like, checking out your website. It's like your energy, like just looking at you, your energy comes through. And so I was so excited this morning to talk. If you don't mind, Brenda, give everyone a quick background of who you are, maybe a little bit about what you're doing.
Yes. So my name is Brenda Florida. I don't work in Florida, live in Florida, any of those things. It's just really my last name. So we'll get that straight from the beginning. I have been in real estate since like 1987. That was a long time ago. I got into it, listed and sold for a while. Then I was on a team, and then I managed my first office in like 1995 or something like that. And I stayed in management, or I was a regional president for a big company. I owned my own office for a while. What I really loved about real estate was helping people grow their business, being that sort of coach. I mean, we didn't call it back that so much back in the old days. But, coaching people on growing their business. I love the transaction. I can totally nerd out on contracts and rules and regs and all that kind of stuff. So really helping people be better at their craft. But the more I did it, the longer I stayed in these leadership roles and hired more people. And,
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure I've trained hundreds of people at this point. And then became the director of member services for the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. So I moved into the association world, and we had about 30,000 members. And so we have all this volunteer leadership. I don't know how many of you volunteer at your local or state association, but there's this constantly rotating group of volunteer leaders. And I got involved in leadership development training there. And all of it started to gel for me. And I realized that there's usually a gap between how knowledgeable somebody might be and how effective they are, whether it's in their transaction with their client, in prospecting, whatever the business part of real estate, or in the leadership department. And that idea of effectiveness just really started intriguing me. And what is that? Why is one person more effective than the other? Because it isn't always because they're the smartest person in the room or have the best skills. And so I really began to realize that the collection of dynamics, I'll call them, that are around emotional intelligence. And I can break that down and describe that. But it was that emotional intelligence that really made the difference. That's what created that real effectiveness. And so I got intrigued by that because that's what I do, and did a lot of studying and reading and stuff, and then began to teach it because I love to teach and I love to speak. And so I started teaching what I call emotional intelligence and leadership effectiveness, which is where I met Steffi, who's part of your group here and helped get me here this morning, and high functioning teams. Because anytime you have a group of people together, I mean, especially in real estate, we're used to it, but even in the association world, you've got committees and all those things. Again, what makes those work and what makes them kind of dysfunctional? And so I really started moving into that. And then I left the association world and became a life coach. And so then all of that, I just layered on more tools because I have this two-pronged thing about me. I'm a big thinker, visionary, that sort of thing, and super practical. And I'm sure you all have experienced it too. I don't enjoy hearing somebody tell me about all the lofty ideals of leadership and how to be a great leader and all those things. But then how do I do that?
Yeah.
Right? When my team is misbehaving, what in the world do I do? And they have no real answer for that. So I have this combination in everything I do, whether people are working with me for simply personal, challenges or professional ones, where there's this balance of okay, let's really focus on our desires and what we want and what that big vision and idea is. And then let's get into the nitty gritty of how do I make that happen?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh my God, it's awesome. I love it. I mean, there's so many areas. I'm going to actually start with your real estate experience, because I think you said 1987. So you've gone through market cycles, and you're right. And the reality is that a lot of agents, we've been in probably one of the longest run of a good real estate market in a long time. So most of us are going to see a transition in the market. Well, you've probably heard some of the initial chatter on the call.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for agents on this call and staff members? We have agents and staff members, because as this happens, agents are going to get a little frantic sometimes, and staff is going to need to be aware of this as well. What advice do you have to sort of navigate through this transition of change? Because I think it's pretty evident we're going to go through this if we're not going through it already.
Yes. And it's interesting what I heard before we started this morning, because so many of you all are talking about multiple offers. A group of realtors I was with last week, they were all saying the opposite. All their multiple offers are drying up, everything, So it's whatever it is in your specific market. The point is, to your point, Skye, it's a big change. If you haven't already felt it, it is coming. Mm-hmm. And that's where, again, I'm going to go really to the emotional intelligence piece, because we can find strategies or, some new cutesy way to write something in an offer to try to, there's always somebody coming up with that kind of stuff. But what really carries over market to market are these emotional intelligence skills, because they are how we are with the people that we work with, whether that's our co-broke agent, our staff, our clients, the home inspector, everybody. And your ability to navigate that from I'll call it sort of a higher level yourself, helps you hold together things that would have otherwise fallen apart, right? When the tempers fly and, people are, either angry or disappointed or all those things. So let me break down emotional intelligence for you. There's 4 components, so it's not very complicated. And 2 of them are about you, and 2 of them are about the other person or people that you're dealing with. So it starts with self-awareness, because without self-awareness, we really don't have a foundation. Okay. But then one of the things I always say, self-awareness only takes you so far. And I'm sure we all know someone in our lives, and maybe we are prone to do it as well, who are just kind of like, well, that's how I am.
Yeah.
This is me. And, as if that's the end of the story, and which makes us sort of a victim of our own patterns and habits. And so after self-awareness comes this sort of self-management piece. So can I start to change how I react and behave, because I'm now aware of what's going on for me? And so much of what's happening in our own minds and everybody around us is a story. Right. So, we talk about limiting beliefs and things which is all part of it. There's all these stories where this means that. And because you did this, now I think my story is you're trying to cheat me out of something, or you're being dishonest, So our clients have stories, we have stories, our co-brokes have stories, everybody's got their story. So then now we move, if I can get clear on mine, get aware of mine, and then actually be able to change my response because of that awareness. And that's a skill that, takes a little practice. Then I can look at the others and start to kind of intuit or use my empathy powers or whatever or simply asking questions to find out what is their story? What are they really thinking, instead of necessarily what they're saying, because those are not always the same. Mm-hmm. And then the 4th piece being, how do we put all that together? Because when we're in a high stress situation, we can't pretend it's just the other people. Yeah. I'm bringing my baggage of, I need this settlement to make my house payment, or I needed, I'm trying to go on vacation tomorrow and wrap this stuff up, or, whatever our own things are. Yeah. And so it's really that ability to be so present. And I love that you start with the meditation. I have meditation as part of my practice as well, because it is that ability to get grounded in ourselves and the good, bad, and the ugly, to be able to see it and then move from that awareness instead of pretending it's not happening.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, great. How do you recommend people, because the story, we're story making machines and, like all we do all day is create stories.
Yes.
Oh, that person didn't call me back. They must be mad at me.
Yes.
Like, oh, that person's driving. Yesterday I was driving there, there's traffic on the highway and someone was in the median, like, going by me. And I'm like, what a a-hole. Right. But then I'm like, wait, maybe his wife's giving birth.
Right.
Like, and you don't know. So we just create stories of like all day. How do you recommend people when they catch themselves creating that story, they pause and like, what is the technique once you become aware of the story you're creating to move forward from it? Right. Because it's not easy.
This is one of my favorite skills, and it's a pattern interrupter, right? So we could look at somebody like Tony Robbins as sort of the first real pro at teaching us the value of interrupting our own patterns, right? And so that's where it starts. That's where you start to bridge that gap between your awareness of something going on for you and then your ability to actually change how you're going to react. So one of my favorite pattern interrupters is simply the question, is it true? And here's the catch with that, even it's a little deeper than just those words are even. It's really a question, is it like absolutely positively we can only say yes or no? If there's any wiggle room, and the mind is so freaking clever, right? And so it's always trying to say, well, it's true if this, and that, and it's true if, whatever. And it's like, no, cut through all that chatter and say, do I absolutely know, absolutely 100% sure that they're mad at me? And that's why they haven't called, or they're avoiding, or they're sneaking in another offer ahead of ours, or, whatever the real estate story part of it is, And usually our story is about something that is in the future, or it's sometimes it's in the past, but a lot of times it's in the future, or we're really, making it up. And so once we get there and you really make yourself get out of your own chatter and go, no, wait a minute. Absolutely positively true. I can stand in front of a judge and prove that that is true. I have to say no. It's not true. And so once I say no, then I can it's like it just kind of snaps you out of it a little bit and it makes room for something else. Yeah. So that's super powerful alone, but I like to follow that up with, who would I be? What would I be thinking? How would I be feeling? Fill in the blank of all that. How would I react if I did not even have that thought? Like it's gone. It's not even, I don't believe it now. I got it. It's not true. But I'm in the exact same situation. It's really important that I think that we don't sugarcoat this stuff. Like, so the reality is the reality. The person's not calling you back. Yeah. Or whatever is happening. The seller's screaming at you, whatever is happening. That's true. So I'm not trying to negate that. And I'm not also, with the is it true question, I'm also not trying to question how I feel. Yeah. Okay. I may have my feelings hurt. I may be angry, but the question isn't, is it true I'm angry? What am I angry about? Is that true? Because they're not calling me back. That's why I'm angry. So and I think they're mad at me, So that's the part I'm questioning, not my own feelings. So I drop back into the situation. I've got this listing agent. They're not calling me back, but I don't have the thought they're trying to sneak their own buyer in without presenting my offer. Yeah. Okay. So where am I at? What's that reality? Okay. We presented an offer. We haven't heard back. What am I going to do? oh, I'm going to probably follow up with the agent.
Yeah.
But it starts to lose all that frenetic energy of it. And this is how like when I coach clients through this, when you get to the who would I be without my story kind of a thing, it's like they'll struggle with it for a bit. And then there's that moment where they're like, oh, I would just, fill in the blank. Like it suddenly becomes easy and it loses all that emotional charge. And that's really how you're getting there. We can do incredibly difficult things without a big emotional charge.
Yeah.
The emotional charge is the fear. It's the story we're making up. It's our own culture of scarcity and lack. And, that's what creates that emotional charge. We can do all number of huge and difficult things without that when our mind is in the right place.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, I think too, as the market switches, the story making is going to get really in depth. Like, oh my God, my seller's mad because the house didn't sell in 2 weeks, or it's going to get, this is going to be really relevant as
because everybody, just human nature is we create these stories to support whatever it is I'm going to say want, even if it's a bad outcome and we say we don't want that because it's our biggest fear, right? That's the sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. We'll create a story that supports the very thing we don't want, or either way, we're just trying to support. The mind always wants to be right. And to Paddington, who just said it sounds like the work of Byron Katie, it is. I was trained in Byron Katie's work. And so that is where I took that from. And
amazing work.
Yeah. I mean, it's so simple, right? But most wisdom teaching, right? Think of the Buddhists and the don't know mind, same kind of thing. If I go into everything as if I don't know, a lot of times when I'm coaching people, I'll say you have amnesia. Yeah. You have no idea what happened to you yesterday, what your parents did to you, what trauma you experienced. How do you drop in to this experience if you're a clean slate? Yeah. And it's as kind of simple as it seems. It's very powerful, and it really takes some undoing. Our culturing, is very deeply embedded. I mean, that's where you've got that 90 to 95 of us as our subconscious, with only 5 to 10% being our conscious awareness. And so all that conditioned stuff is the major part of what's going on and what's pushing the buttons. Yeah, and so being able to bridge that gap with these kinds of tools is just the unsexy sort of work of it, right? It's just the showing up and being present with yourself and dropping that story. And I think next to stories, the other big thing that really creates problems for all of us, and a lot in a real estate transaction, is compare and despair.
Give me more on that.
So as soon as I start comparing myself to somebody, I look at another agent and I'm like, well, gosh, they've been in the business only 5 years and I've been in 10 and they're doing this much business, or, they got 3 offers under agreement this month and I can't seem to get anything accepted, and so we start comparing ourselves to other people. And of course, buyers and sellers are doing it all the time.
My neighbors sold. I missed the market. How many? We're going to do this. I missed the market.
Yeah.
How would you recommend? Because that is compare and despair. When someone says I missed the market, they're comparing. And I always knew the comparison. I never heard the word despair. I love that.
Yeah, because usually comparison, unless we happen to be in an ego puffery moment, we're not usually comparing ourselves and coming out on top.
Yeah.
We're almost always comparing ourselves as a form of diminishment. Okay.
How would you respond, Brenda? Because these guys are going to hear this a lot. Brenda, I missed the market. How would you, would you call the seller out and the compare? Would you say, it's compare and despair? Give someone some scripts or lines maybe they could use, because they're going to need it in this next couple months.
Yeah. So always you have to, and this is where the emotional intelligence piece comes back in. You have to know your audience. You can't take a person and push them really farther than they're emotionally and in their own journey of consciousness able to go. You can be the wisest. And if we look at our wise teachers throughout time, they're not trying to make people think the way they think, believe what they think, do what they're saying is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
They're putting it out there. They're offering it, right? It's an invitation. I've got this tool. Is it true? And I'm inviting you to use it. If I were up here very dogmatically and telling you, bossing you around about how you need to do that every time, everybody's going to have resistance to that. So you got to know your person enough to know, and you're really coaching. I mean, that's what I'm doing all the time with a client because I'm the coach. We've all experienced it with friends and stuff. I can have great, very clear insight on what your block is that you don't have.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'll feed that to you in small bites. Well, what about this? Or have you thought about that? Or is it, kind of questions are always better than statements. And then if you're picking up on it, if you're like, okay, then that gives me my clue. I can kind of keep going with it until you get to the point that you're like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's me. And then I know, I'm either wrong or you're not ready to hear it. And I can't make you hear something you're not ready to hear. Yeah. And I think that's what we do a lot with clients and co-brokes and everybody. Once we see it clearly ourselves, we want to make everybody else see it and feel it and hear it and get it. Okay. And so that's very much a piece I would call being attached to the outcome. And the outcome isn't necessarily something as tangible as the settlement. The outcome could be that you see it the same way I see it. Yeah. Okay. And as soon as we get into the attachment to an outcome, we start manipulating, whether we mean to or not. So that's always dangerous territory. But a little more back to your question. So when you have a seller who's like, oh, we missed the market, or, a buyer with the interest rates going up, oh my gosh, we should, the best thing to do is sort of, and this is a little like a bumper sticker, which I'm not generally fond of in this setting, but just to set the stage a little bit, it's sort of coaching them into you're at the right place at the right time for you. Yeah. We can't be, if your house wasn't on the market a month ago, or you weren't in the market a month ago when interest rates were lower, I mean, that just is what it is for a bunch of reasons in your life. Who knows what chaos would ensue if we tried to undo all those, And so we're just where we are. And now the most helpful, the way I would frame it is what I've learned from my experience is instead of looking at what we don't have or what we're thinking we might have missed, that's going to really limit the options that we see for ourselves. So let's get really grounded in now. What are the interest rates now? What the market like now? What are days on the market now? What's your money situation now? What do you want now? Let's get into the present and what you really want and figure out the best way to get the most of that. Yeah. Yep. Because if we can get people circled back, so I created this kind of self-coaching platform. I mean, I use it all the time with clients, but it's easy enough to do it with yourself too, that I call the Solve It method. And it also, like Katie's work, only has 4 components. And those are desire, thoughts, feelings, and action. Because whatever, I haven't found the thing yet with me or lots of clients, when we think something's wrong or there's a problem or there's we got this issue, whatever, it's in one of those 4 areas. Yeah. We're either going for something we really don't desire and we're trying to make ourselves do something, right? Like you think of going to the gym or something. You really don't want to, but everybody says it's a good idea. So I guess I'll go do it. If it's not your desire, you won't be able to maintain the action. Willpower doesn't really take us very far. It's not very sustainable. So then you won't have the action. Well, why is that? Because you don't have the desire.
Yeah.
Then other times we have the desire, but it's our thoughts. It's the scarcity. It's the limiting beliefs. It's the stories. It's the whatever that keep us from taking the action that we really want to take. So usually pretty much a lot of times people think the problem is they're not doing something. They're not taking the action piece, but it's rarely, in my experience, actually the action. Sometimes people get hung up and they don't know what to do. How do I break this thing down into small steps? So that can be it sometimes. But usually it's about your thoughts and feelings, because thoughts and feelings are never separate.
Yeah. Yep.
So you can't go into that compare and despair without the despair.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have that feeling. By the same token, when you get a client or even a co-broke who you're with, in the present moment, be like, well, okay, I hear you. And I'm very careful. I've been working very hard for several years to get but out of my vocabulary. We rarely really mean it, because when you say but, it's like saying everything I just said was a lie. and so usually we don't really mean but, we really mean and. So it is, I hear you, in sincerity. I mean, that's such a phrase everybody knows now. We've all been mocked with, I hear you.
Yeah.
So don't get caught in that. But being sincere, like, I really hear you. I hear how frustrated you are. I hear how you think we're trying to hoodwink you on this or that and da-da-da. And I really want to get to where we can be right now today that will be the best for both of us to advocate for our clients. Okay. Or something like that. That's just kind of neutralizing. And can get you back in the present and a little out of the stories. Does that help?
So great.
Question?
Absolutely. I don't know if you can see my t-shirt too. You are where you belong.
Oh, yeah.
Right. When you were talking, I was like, oh my God.
That's it. You're in the right place at the right time, being exactly who you are. Yeah. There's no other place to be, actually. There's no other place to be.
That's great. Well, I think it's such great advice to like coach sellers and buyers, that this is where you're meant to be right now. And a market is a market. That's different than your life. Mm-hmm. Life is not the market. Life is your life. And I think it's going to be really critical, I think, for agents to like get into this mindset of like, how do I get people they compare and despair? I love that. Love that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that makes real estate so much more interesting than, say, the stock market, because even though real estate is a market, it's a market that is dealing with people and families and whole other life events that are 100% separate from whatever the market is doing.
Yep.
And so by getting people back instead of viewing their home or the market and whatever's going on as a commodity, get the way we think of the stock market, getting them back grounded in their own. Yeah, but you wanted to wait till school got out and you needed this, or you didn't even know that piece of, and get them back in reality.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Life is, and Bill, I think you said life is not the market, right? That's a great use. The market is the market and your life is your life, and they're two separate things, and we have to operate them both at the same time. So Brenda, give us more about who you are. Like we got a little bit of your professional background. Mm-hmm. Like, who's Brenda as a person?
So I have 4 kids. In fact, one of them is getting married in Philly next weekend, and I have been selected to officiate their wedding.
That's awesome.
So that's like the most amazing thing ever. I have 3 grandchildren. I'm from Southern California, and I'm back living there. I live in Huntington Beach, although thankfully for the 6 a.m. start, I'm in Pennsylvania today. But I lived in Pennsylvania for about 20 years, North Carolina for about 15. So my real estate career is in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. But I've, been married, got the kids, got 3 grandkids. I love to travel. And really my passion at this point in my life is getting this work out, helping as many people really operating, living their life on a daily basis at their highest level. And of course, that's always changing, and so I love in any environment that I get to say yes to bring this kind of information and the skills and, one-on-one coaching and teaching leadership programs and all those things. I think I'm more passionate and probably ambitious at this point in my life than I was even when I was younger. And I was always very ambitious. I mean, who has 4 kids, right? That's like stay-at-home mom ambition, right, at work. But I'm very. I always feel like the best things of my life are ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I'm 61, so there's a lot of people that don't think that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Well, so Brenda, give us more, and I always love asking this question. You can be as vulnerable as you want.
Okay.
What's one of the most challenging things you've worked through on a personal level, not a professional level, that you learned a lesson from that you can impart? And once again, you can be as vulnerable as, your call.
Okay. So 2 years ago, two years ago, I was sitting in my car Googling homeless shelters. So I'm a big leaper. I am willing to take risks and, all the things. And when I've done them in other times in my life, the parachute opened and sometimes it was close to the ground, but everything all those cliches about, oh, it'll work out. You just keep the faith and all the stuff. And I had all the faith and I went broke and I had nowhere, I gave up my apartment because I didn't want to be evicted and I could see that writing on the wall. Yeah. And stayed in Airbnbs, did some house sitting, but I went months and months and months where I rarely knew. If I knew for 1 week where I was going to live, that was a long time. Like that just felt, I'm like, I have enough money to get a room in an Airbnb for a week. I'm in heaven. Okay. Yeah. And so of course, these were not lovely Airbnbs. Yeah. I mean, they were okay, but anyway, not the way I was used to living. So, and I did that for the risk of my business. I mean, that was the start of my coaching practice. I left real estate and I felt very divinely guided. Yeah. And so it was a huge crisis of faith because I'm like, wait a minute, I feel like I've really followed what I was led to do. And this is the result. Like it was so incongruent for what my belief system really was in my other life experiences. I look back on it and I really think that what it was for me, when life is that horrific, I mean, that was very horrific. Okay. Yeah. For me, because this is the kind of person I am, it made me really dig deep into what limiting beliefs I still had laying around that I actually thought I had taken care of years ago in coaching or therapy. I've done lots of both. Okay. Yep. But I found all this ugly stuff because, and it went on for I even came back I was in California, then I came back to Pennsylvania to live actually with the friends I'm visiting right now for 9 months because I could not afford a place for myself. So it took me about 2 years to recover from this. So this was not a bad month. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So how long it kept going just kept driving me in. And I kept hearing just like these really nasty, inner dialogue that's so ugly. And so I'm grateful because it made me go back to work on those things. Yeah. And so I think I live from a place of certainly more internal freedom than I ever have. And I'm making enough money that I have my own apartment now and I live 2 blocks from the beach. So that's cool. But I mean, and that is cool. It was very hard for me to not have a home, but what's even better than that part is who I have become. I think a question I'll give you guys, because I know we need to wrap up. A question I'll give you they say that the power of the quality of our lives is the power of our questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so when life is stressful, and you can catch this, you'll catch it with your clients too. There's a lot of why. Why is this happening? Why didn't they do that? Why didn't I see it coming? Why am I must not be good at this. So why is that? I mean, like all these things. And why is usually a big part of those questions. And in that type of scenario, why is not your friend. Okay. When you want to look at your motivation, Simon Sinek's why, great, do that. Yeah. But when life is going down the, shitter, if I can say that,
yep.
I did. Why will not help you get anywhere but more despair.
Yeah.
And so the question I love is, and I got this from Michael Bernard Beckwith, is what is seeking to emerge? So all these situations and circumstances I had that were horrific to me, instead of why do I only have $50 in the bank? What's seeking to emerge? So who am I becoming?
Yeah.
Who am I becoming through this? And keeping that vision, keeping that focus on, I have to be becoming something fantastic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be in the heat of this fire.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay with that. That's going to be my belief. Not that if I believe everything works out, because that was kind of what it was before. And at least for me, and I'm sure there's other people with that story, sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So what is seeking to emerge and who am I becoming helped keep me to where I could, because I'm coaching people for a living. I can't show up in the depths of my despair. I can't market myself when I'm in the depths of despair. Like I couldn't afford to stay in that place that each day I would usually dip into. So my job became, how do I feel abundant in a completely legitimate way that feels very real to me, even when I have $50 in the bank?
Mm-hmm. I love this.
Yeah.
Brenda, I wish we could go on, but that question, it was such a powerful, vulnerable moment for you to disclose that and like to talk about that. And I can't thank you enough for just your authenticity this morning and really powerful messages. And I love that there's so many great nuggets from this morning. Mm-hmm. So I'm really grateful for you coming on. I'm grateful you're in PA, California.
It's not 3:00 in the morning. Yeah.
And
I would have done it, but it was easier from here.
But honestly, it was an awesome interview.
I'm very grateful to have been with you, and thank you all for what you allowed me to share. And the stuff in the chat is great. Yeah, thank you.
You get you a copy of the chat too, and the recording as well.
Great.
But it was awesome. And I'm really grateful for you. Again, the vulnerability at the end was like really powerful. So I appreciate that. And I can't wait to see what your future holds.
Yeah.
It's going to be
good
really
stuff. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, guys, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Lots of love to everyone. Make sure you're taking some of this stuff. And there's some really good nuggets that are going to help you as this market emerges. This is a huge opportunity. If you take it as an opportunity, we are not victims. We're going to not get through. We're going to actually emerge from this. It's going to be awesome. So anyways, I hope everyone has a great day. I will see you on Thursday. Brenda, thank you again. Good luck with your upcoming, I guess not your marriage, your officiating.
But my son's,
your upcoming officiating.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the 6AMERS podcast. If you liked what you heard on this episode, we would love to hear from you. So leave a comment and review, and don't forget to subscribe. For more information on our 6AMERS community, guests, book recommendations, and more, visit our website at the6amers.com, the6amers.com. We also invite you to follow us on Instagram for a daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and fun. See you next time.